everybody? It is currently Thursday, September 25th, 2025, and I'm coming at you live from a train station in the beautiful Spanish countryside. And it seems like there's a couple arguing at the bar, but I'm sure it'll be fine, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, who could even be mad in a beautiful place like this with its rolling hills and its amazing landscape? That's what we call foreshadowing, folks. All right, I guess I'm just a literary genius or something. Call me Cormac, call me Ernest Hemingway, call me the, another author. I don't know. God wrote the Bible, and they say that's the best story ever told. So, I mean, yeah, you can you can call me God. A lot of foreshadowing in that one. A lot of foreshadowing in the Bible, and some of the people they took the foreshadowing a little too seriously. A little bit with the whole rapture thing that happened. Although, I don't know, dude, schizophrenics are always freaking out about one thing or another. So this is just it was just schizophrenics latching on to like religion, and now because of social media, the schizophrenics can get their message out to everyone instead of like screaming at a bunch of raccoons in like a dumpster somewhere. So I think people, freaking out about being like, oh, these fucking Christians are losing. No, the Christians aren't losing their minds. The schizophrenics, the schizophrenics are losing their minds as they always have. So I don't think that was that big of a deal. But it is a big deal. Confrontation. Confrontation is a big deal, and I had a little bit of not really confrontation, but there was like this overwhelming like smoke smell and a little bit, just a touch of haze, not too much. It wasn't full on foggy. I wasn't, the Edmund Fitzgerald going through Lake Superior. It wasn't that type of fog, but it was a little bit of haze. Maybe I was hallucinating it. But and so I was like, God damn. And I at first I was like, okay, I don't know, maybe someone's just burning something somewhere. But it became like so powerful eventually that I was like, my roommates have to be smoking weed, right? Or not my roommates, but the dudes who live across the. And so I went in and I knocked on the door and I was like, hey, if you guys are smoking, can you put a towel underneath the door? And they were like, we're not smoking. And I was like, instantly, I was like, oh, fuck, dude. Now I'm just like a little, white bitch Karen. And I was like, God damn it, dude. God damn it. But, you gotta, I feel like a lot of the problems that fester up when you live with other people is just like a lack of confrontation, right? When it's like, my roommate never does the dishes. And it's like, did you say, hey, do the dishes? Like, I feel like that's where a lot of the resentment starts to come into play. And so they were like, no, we're not smoking. I was like, damn, my bad. Sorry, all that good shit. And they were like, I think someone's burning sage in we have like a smudge room because it's a native college. So I don't know, freedom of religion or whatever. We have a room where you can burn sage at. And so I was like, oh yeah, that's probably it. But the smell kept on coming. I've burnt sage before. I've lived in these dorms before, so I've smelled people burn sage, and usually it doesn't last that long, right? And also, I'm sick right now, and my voice is part of the reason it's so fucked up is that's just how I sound, but the other reason is it just kept on burning. Whatever it was getting in there and like coating my throat, and so I've been coughing a little bit, and so I went to take a sip of water, a nice little sip of cold, refreshing, filtered water. And there wasn't any. So I had to go walk to the water fountain to fill up my water because I'm not filling my water bottle up. I'm not using this old rusty ass sink for drinking water. I'll drink out of the faucet. Fuck it. I'll drink out of a hose, but something about that sink seems a little bit more gross to me. And so I was walking down the hallway and I was like, "Oh yeah, like someone's like burning sage or something somewhere or in the room that you're supposed to do it in." And so I like kept walking down the hallway, and the room where you burn the sage at is at the end of the hallway. And as I was walking through the hallway, I'm like, the smell's starting to go away. The smell is it's no longer where it should be. And so I'm pretty sure either someone's got a demon in their room, maybe I'm the demon because I've had an adverse reaction to this, but it could also be because my throat's so fucked up from being sick, or it's because I'm sick. It's not because I like jamming cocks down my throat, it's because I'm sick. So maybe I'm the demon, dude. Maybe the European in me is too powerful, and now this sage is killing my white devil soul. Maybe that's it. Cause yeah, I've been coughing a whole lot, or someone was getting real loud with it. And like I said, I've been sick, so I haven't been smelling a whole lot lately. You know, whatever it is, I haven't been smelling it. Whether it's a big stinky shit in the toilet or a beautiful rose outside, I haven't really been smelling too much. So this must, if it's that powerful for me, while I'm like still a little bit stuffed up, dude, everyone else must be getting tortured. But I am also kind of autistic when it comes to smells. Like I said, I can't handle Febreze. Like if I smell Febreze, I'm like, okay, what are we doing here, dude? You're making me feel like the gas chambers are real. You know, that's what I feel like when I smell Febreze. And also, if you were wondering, my door is made out of wood, so that you would think, based off what these Holocaust historians say, none of the air or the gas that contains the smell of the sage or weed or whatever it is should be leaking into my room, but it is. So myth busted, dude. I'm feeling like Jamie Heineman. I'm feeling like the other dude. I'm feeling like both of them right now. What is it, Rick? There's I don't know what the Mythbusters names are, but I'm feeling like them because I think the myth is busted on the whole wooden door theory. But yeah, and I can't delineate between smells at like a glance, or I guess not a glance because a glance is like with your eyes or whatever. Whatever the smell version of glance, I can't determine between like burning plants at at just like a moment's notice. I can tell wood when it's like wood burning, but when it's just like leaves or whatever, like even cigarettes sometimes I'll get a little bit tripped up on. Although cigarettes are like 90% tar or whatever, so it's not. Those are pretty easy to tell, but like sage versus weed, they're both just like dried. I guess weed is a flower and sage is the leaves, but they're both still just like dried plant stuff, so I can't really tell. And I am sick, but it is an overwhelming smell. Overwhelming enough for me to go be like, hey, you guys need to put a thing under your door. For me to be an annoying little bitch about it. But like I said, that's a big thing I feel like I've learned with roommates is like the resentment that can start to build when you share a space with someone. Part of it comes from you just like didn't ask the person to stop doing the thing, right? And even if you're wrong, even if you're like wrong, like I was about them smoking, although I'm sure that they do. Those boys seem like they like to have a good time. Um, but even if you're wrong, it's still like I don't know. I don't care that much. It's like I've had roommates that have smoked weed before. So I was like, it was my PTSD. All right. So if they say anything about me being an asshole and knocking on their door, I tried to, not come in pounding on the door like, listen here, motherfuckers. Although that did happen to me last night. Last night, the sickness started to come on at night. And so I was just like chilling in bed. I think I was butt ass naked, chilling in bed, watching Wreck It Ralph. For some, don't ask me why I did. But I was watching. No, I did have boxers on. I do remember that because I was like, I can't watch Wreck It Ralph naked. I don't know, something about that feels very wrong. So I did have boxers on. But then I just hear pounding at the door. Not at my door specifically, but the setup is we got like a living room and then a dorm room on either side. And then obviously to get into the living room, there's a door there. And so I just heard pounding on there and I was like, oh, it's probably just someone rocking up for one of these two boys, to hang out or whatever. So I was like, I don't give a shit. And then whoever was knocking at that door, although I did put my shirt and my shorts on just to like just fucking, make sure everything's nice and good. So I was just like chilling there, and then they came into the room, and I was like, oh, they're probably just like gonna go into that dude's room and just like wait till he's here. And then I heard knocking at my door, and like for the first time ever in my life, I was like, what did I do wrong this time? Like, I've I've been in trouble before. I was a bit of a troublemaker as a child, lighting dogs on fire, pushing old ladies down the stairs. Classic, normal kid stuff. And so I was like, but my mind was racing, and that was scarier. That's scarier than like knowing what you're in trouble for. Because if you know what you're in trouble for, you got some shit ready. You know, you can be like, there's a hole in the wall. I didn't even notice. I've just been in my room reading the Bible. I didn't even know there was a hole in the wall. Like, what are you even talking about, right? But I wasn't prepared. I had no idea what was going on, and they were like, "Where's this dude at?" And I was like, "Oh, he doesn't live in my room." So, pretty interesting story. Me thinks that's a really someone got the wrong room. It was campus security and like one of the dudes who like runs the building. So. That's what was making me freak out. Although if it was just like a random person, that might also be just as scary because I'd be like, "Oh fuck, did they discover it, dude? They discovered the pod." But then I'd be like, "I mean, you listen to it? Like, what did you think of it? Like, did you follow? Did you give like a rating and all that good stuff?" If you had any critiques, what would they be? Besides the just rampant general bigotry, right? Besides that, what would your critiques be? So yeah, that's how my day went today and last night. I guess just in between the time I recorded these two episodes, but yeah, pretty boring 24 hours. I had a calculus test that took me like 20 minutes to do. So yeah, although I have taken calculus before, so I'm not a super genius. I'm just a regular genius. All right, just like the rest of you guys. I have an IQ of 160. And I'm instantly able to pick up on any, intellectual pursuit, just like everyone else. God damn, it's still getting to me, dude. I feel like anyone that's seen the show Generation Kill, I'm starting to feel like Ferrando. Ferrando believes in the violence of action, gentlemen. That's what I'm starting to feel like right now. Or maybe it's asthma, or like I said, maybe I am a demon, dude. Maybe they're trying to purge me of my evil white devil genes. Maybe they're trying to get the white devil out of here, which I I don't know if you guys are history buffs, but historically, uh white people, not all of them obviously, but a fair amount of white people weren't super friendly towards Native Americans, so I understand that as well. Although I do have long hair, so I think that I think that cancels it out, right? If I have a ponytail, that makes me Native American, right? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're trying to get the white devil out. But like I said, I've been around burning sage before, and it's never given me this feeling. So maybe I, developed some sort of, podcasting is the ultimate tool of the white man, though. So, you know, back in the day, they would kill all the buffalo so that the tribes on the Great Plains couldn't eat. Nowadays, the white devil will start to podcast. Maybe it's that. Maybe they're trying to purge this of the White Devil podcast. I don't know what it is, but it's fucking my throat up. You know, it is my tight throat is getting fucked up by whatever this burning plant material is. Okay, that's what I have to say about that. But look, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about this story that's actually pretty good, dude. I'm not one of those people that like when I read or watch a movie or really consume media of any type, my main goal when I'm reading it is to like what's like dumb or like funny about this. That's kind of my main goal. And there is a lot of like dumb funny things about this story. But when I was reading it, and here's the thing, I wasn't actually reading it. I was reading the spark notes of like the summary of the story, and then there was an analysis right next to it. So we are going to do a little bit of analyzing on this episode. But like when I was reading the story at first, I was like, fucking dumb bitch or whatever. Going full Gillis. Just being like, women are dumb, right? Am I right, guys? Women are dumb. Although that's not Gillis, but that is like the general if I had to like summarize sort of like the modern like stand up slash uh podcasting thing, it's either I'm a communist or women are dumb. Those are the two options. neither are neither are great. Or those are the two options for like the vast majority of people. And I think we all know which side I fall on. I fall pretty firmly on one of those sides. I'm not gonna lie. Um, but I was reading this story and I was like, fucking stupid bitches. I hate women. They're always fucking, putting on makeup or like hitting a curb when they're driving. I was doing that for part of this story. And then I got hit with that Frank. If you've ever seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, there's an episode where um my roommate's screaming right now, but at this point I feel like I can't be a little bitch and be like, if you need to stop screaming. And I don't care about the screaming, but the smoke it was making me cough. It was making me turn into Ferrando. Gentlemen. Um but I was reading this story and I did have that Frank moment. When Mac does that interpretive dance and he's like, doing all that shit and like, I don't know, it's about being gay or whatever. But in that scene, Frank is watching it and he goes, "Oh my god, I get it." And that's what I felt like when I was reading this story. Although my revelation, we'll call it, epiphany was significantly dumber than Frank's, mostly because the analysis of the story was right next to the summary of the story. So I was like, I didn't realize it. I had someone else tell me like the symbolism. So that's the kind of dum dum I am, you know. But I don't think the fact that I'm a dum dum is it's not a well kept secret. I would say it's wide out in the open. Everyone knows about it. So, but this story it's pretty decent story. When it's all said and done, it does have a little bit of like that artsy bullshit where it's like sometimes the point of the story is there is no point or whatever. Although there's a lot of symbolism in this story, but I don't know if it has an exact point. And I think if it does have an exact point, which we'll talk about, it is a little bit like kind of like a I don't know, like something you would read in like a young adult book or something like that. Or maybe I just don't understand it. This is Ernest Hemingway, so I very well could not understand it. But I've never been a big Ernest Hemingway guy. I don't know, just something about him. I like the ocean. I like the Florida Keys and all that good stuff. I like being a crippling alcoholic and then committing suicide. I'm down for all of that. But I think I'm just not super interested in Ernest Hemingway. I'm not really interested in books as a whole though, because like I said, I'm a dum dum. So this isn't really Ernest Hemingway's fault. I'm just a moron who needs constant stimulation, and so therefore I don't read that much. that's that's how I would say is going overall. That guy must have hit the shot of a life in 2K or something like that. He's going hog wild over there, losing his mind. I should know he's not smoking weed, dude. He's got way too much energy for that. My roommate does. Sorry if you guys can't hear it. It's actually pretty funny sometimes. Like I'll just be chilling, like scrolling on my phone, and I hear, "Oh my god!" just it's like a soundboard for my life. Just oh my god, it's very fun to listen to. It just like breaks up the monotony of everything. I don't mind it. If it was constant, it would be annoying, but he's just playing the game or whatever he's doing in there, having a grand old time. So I'm not mad about it. But to this story, the story is called "Hills Like White Elephants." Yeah, which just from the name you can tell, like, and to be fair, this is true of a lot of books. It's gonna kind of be a little bit like artsy, you know, like this is a realistic, grounded story, and I tell the stories of real humans or whatever, which is fine. I'm down for that. But sometimes I get a little sick and tired of it. I get it, I need some drama, something dramatic that I can look at. And this is a little bit, it's drama, but not in the way that I like it. It's like Love Island chick drama. Um, but it is pretty decent story. Pretty decent story. So let's get into it. Yeah, Ernest Hemingway is actually a pretty decent writer, guys. And I don't know if you guys know that. In my opinion, Ernest Hemingway is not half bad. So let's get into this story. So a valley in Spain known as the Ebro stretches far on a hot, shadeless, barren landscape of rolling hills. So even just like reading like the Spark Notes description of it, I was like, dude, Ernest Hemingway must have been cooking up something crazy with that. Because the only other book I've read recently at all, and that was like last year, was Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. I read that book recently. It was pretty good book, really good book. And the main reason it's so good is just like Cormac McCarthy just like describes the settings so well and just like with such artfulness that like the story's it's a good story, but just like the way he writes is very good. So I know Ernest was cooking up something crazy here, and like the way I imagine it is like there still is like plants and all that stuff there, but because it's so hot and because the sun is beaten down so much on all these plants, they all kind of have turned into like the same shade of brown almost. That's what I'm imagining. I'm not imagining like surface of the moon, just like rocky, you know, rolling hills going on forever and ever. I'm imagining like there is stuff there, but like the sun is just so bright and oppressive that all the stuff kind of like looks the same. So it's not really barren, but it might as well be just because of how much this sun's just beating the fucking landscape like a redheaded stepchild. So that's where we're at. Not a great environment to start off the story with, but it's gonna get so much worse. Just awful. So an American man sits with his partner, known as the girl, and the American man is the man, at a train station waiting for the express train from Madrid to Barcelona. So these two chilling together, American dude, presumably American girl. I don't know why, because there's a woman in this story that's called The Woman, and this is a short story. I think it's like 17 pages long, so you can go read it if you want to. There's free PDFs and all that stuff. I'm just a lazy piece of shit. But in this story, there is a waitress, and they call the waitress the woman. So I'm like, girl is just a term for like a woman that hasn't grown up yet, right? Like if he called both of them, if he called the waitress a girl and this lady that the American man is hanging out with a girl as well, then I'd be like, okay, well he's just referring to them as a girl for some reason. But to call one girl and one woman, I don't know, maybe it's a reflection of like one is less mature like mentally and one is more mature physically or mentally. Or maybe it we'll get into the story a little bit, but I do think maybe there could be something like that there, or this guy is just a run of the mill pedophile. This is either symbolism or it's telling us that our main character is maybe he likes him young. It could be could be something. It's either of those two. And if I know her Ernest Hemingway, this is a story about a pedophile. So but I'm sure it's symbolism of some kind about, maturity and control a little bit. Control is a major aspect of this story. So they're sitting there chilling at this train station, and the two sit at a bar in the shade. This is important. They're at the bar in the shade and discuss what to drink. The man orders 2 beers from a waitress known as the woman because the girl does not speak Spanish. And we got a few important things to remember later on when we do our analysis. They're in the shade at the bar, drinking together, and the girl does not know Spanish, and they're in Spain. But the dude does know Spanish. So you got to remember that this dude speaks Spanish, this chick doesn't, so she is kind of reliant on him for everything, when they're in this world. And that I do think is a bit of symbolism because I think this was written in the 20s. Ernest Hemingway is old as shit. I thought he was like 50s, 60s. Nah, he was chilling in like the 20s. So I think that's when this was written, if 1927, I want to say. But I could be wrong, but sometime around then. So this wasn't part of the analysis, but I do feel like it's part of it is like this chick is entirely dependent on this dude, and that was a reflection of what society was like at the time. So they're chilling, order a couple cervezas, dude. He says, dos cervezas con limon. That's what he says to him. No, I think they're just getting nice warm beer from a train station, no lime. And so they're chilling there, and the couple is sitting together but not talking, and the girl is staring at the hills while they both drink. So this is anyone that's ever been on vacation with like a family before, or especially I have to imagine a girlfriend, you do reach a stage where you're just like, okay, we're together 24 hours a day. We're just doing shit because we're supposed to do shit, I guess. Just fucking, you know, all the bullshit that goes along with a vacation, with your family or other people and stuff like that. Or even like a vacation with your friends is chill, but like a vacation with your girlfriend or your family, I mean, that's just hell. It's just constant like activities that you don't want to do. Like, who wants to go to the beach and collect seashells? It's like, not me. I don't I don't want to go to the beach to collect seashells. Unless one of these motherfuckers has a pearl in it that I can sell for a plane ticket out of here. No, I have no interest in going to the beach and collecting fucking seashells. Classic chick type activities. But I do think the roles are kind of reversed here because obviously the dude is the one who speaks Spanish, and this is the 1920s, so he's the one with all like the money and power really in this situation. So she might be, a little bit sick and tired of his bullshit, just going to bars, just you know. I do feel like a lot of like the bullshit activities that dudes have to do now is like kind of a cosmic retribution for the fact that that's kind of what men put women through for about, I don't know, 10,000 years. I feel like that's a little bit of cosmic retribution because you got to imagine for about 10,000 years there, it was like if a couple went on vacation, it was the dude deciding the activity. So it's like, all right, we're going to go watch an execution at the public square. Then we're going to pick up a couple of beers and then we're going to go stone a chick to death. Dude, it's going to be a great time. And now the roles are reversed. It's like first we have to go to a Starbucks because I guess we're in Mexico and Mexican Starbucks is different. And then we have to go to the fucking beach to do whatever chicks do at the beach. I don't get skin cancer, I guess. And then we have to go back to the hotel for 3 minutes so she can get dressed, you know, put fucking, whatever the fuck in her hair. And then we go out to a restaurant where I'm paying. That's cosmic retribution for years, centuries, millennia of just public executions and beers being like the main activities that couples went on. So they're chilling there together, looking, chicks looking at the landscape, dude's just like looking at his beer, I guess, swirling it around with his finger, doing whatever. So the girl says that the hills look like white elephants, and the man says he's never seen a white elephant. And in his defense, I don't know if I've ever seen a white elephant either, you know? But also, in the girl's defense, this guy might just be retarded because the girl is, I don't know, in my opinion, she's just being like, if an elephant was white and also a hill, that's what that would look like. Kind of a dumb thing to say. Not, it's definitely a thought that I would have, but not something that I would say aloud. But still, I get where she's coming from with this one, but still, just kind of a random drop in there. It's like, dude, we've been bickering this whole fucking vacation, and I just want to have a beer, and you're talking about elephants and hills and shit like that, and that is where the name of the story comes from for some reason. And we'll talk about it later. We'll talk about why I think he chose Hills Like White Elephants for the name of the story. So the two then get into a brief bickering match over whether the man has seen an elephant or a white elephant or not. And this is where I kind of start, swinging it back over to the dude side because his quote in the story is like, yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen a white elephant before. And then she's like, you've seen a white elephant before. I know you have. And that just starts like this whole argument basically. And they're just fighting about white elephants. It's just, and that does give me a little bit of sympathy for the dude because it's like this is what we're starting a fight over, whether or not I've seen a white elephant. I don't even know if white elephants fucking exist. You bitch, you're just like my ex, fucking always talking about white elephants and fucking purple tigers and all that bullshit. Always bringing up bullshit in my life. So this is said is 19 times. But this is where I start to gain a little bit of sympathy for the man. And I'm like, I get it, dude. I get, like, just, it's a hot day. You're doing, like, a chick activity for some reason. And then she just starts running her goddamn mouth. Just running her mouth. And you're like, it's 1927. I can't beat her into a coma anymore. All I can do is wait until we get to the hotel room. And then I can beat her into a coma. So this guy's dealing with the whole feminism bullshit of you have to beat your wife in private now, hearing about white elephants, just trying to drink a beer. He's being a little bit of an asshole, right? When you're with women, you just have to acknowledge the fact that yeah, you're gonna be doing shit that you don't like, and you're gonna hear a lot of dumb stuff. All right, that's just part of being around women, and you know, women have to deal with the same thing too with men, but instead of it being about hearing annoying stuff or whatever, it's about the fear of being raped. All right, so the girl then sees an ad for liquor and asks the man what it says. See, she asks if they can get some, and he orders two, and then she asks if they should drink it with water, and he orders it with water. Once again, classic chick shit. Should we go to like the pumpkin patch, or should we go to like an apple orchard? Like, I think we should just like. Do you want to go there? Do you think that would be fun? And it's like, no, bitch. I don't think going to a fucking muddy field filled with vines and pumpkins would be fun. And she's just trying to start a little bit of conversation in her defense. But it's still like, God, can't we just sit in just seething silence? Can't we just be fucking angry at each other? Right? Like, that's what I'm thinking as a man. And I'm sure as a woman, she's probably thinking, this is 1927 and I have a man mad at me. I need to, like, stop this right now so I don't get beaten into a bloody pulp. So, but still, as a man in the 21st century, I have that man brain of just like, oh my God, just say you want the drink. Just say, why are you asking me if I want the drink or not? Just get the goddamn drink. Why are you asking me what it says? Just ask me to order it. And the drink, I don't remember what it's called, right? It's called like Azia de Toro or something like that, which means like horse of rice, maybe something like that. Um, but he gets it. They get the liquor with water for some reason, and part of the thing about liquor that I don't understand is that like when you're drinking high quality liquor, sometimes you're supposed to put water in it, which is like, why don't why doesn't it just come with more water then? I don't know. That's a little bit confusing to me. So, but he does it, and he's like, "All right, babe, let's get the drink." So, as they drink the liquor, the girl says it tastes like licorice, and that everything tastes like licorice. Once again, dude, more just classic chick shit. Licorice. First, you're talking about white elephants, and now you're saying everything tastes like licorice. I think you're having a stroke right now. That's what that sounds like to me. It sounds like this lady is having some sort of extreme, mental episode of some kind, and she's having a stroke. Because everything tastes. If this tastes like licorice, if the liquor tastes like licorice, that's fine to say, I guess. But like everything does. I think you have like a problem in either your brain or mouth or both. You clearly have a problem with your mouth because you're always fucking running and I'm gonna slap the shit out of you. But if everything tastes like licorice to you, maybe see a doctor. But this is the 1920s, so if you see a doctor and you say everything tastes like licorice, you're either gonna be given cocaine and opium or you're gonna be in a straitjacket in about 5 minutes. So I understand why she's not going to the doctor, despite thinking everything tastes like licorice, which Eh, that's not the worst. That's not the worst thing that you can taste all the time. I know a lot of people are black licorice haters. I'm a decent fan of it. I do not like the salted shit. I do not like when people add salt to shit that should not have salt. They're just fucking salted caramel chocolate, and it's like, yeah, that it tastes fine, but the salt doesn't add anything to it, and I'm tired of pretending it does. Right? Putting it on fucking chocolate chip cookies and everything. I don't know what the fuck I was. Oh, yeah, the black licorice. People put salt on black licorice, and I don't like that. But I do like black licorice in and of itself. I think it's a nice aromatic taste. Which, yeah, this lady's having a stroke right now, I think. Just everything tastes like licorice. That means everything kind of smells like licorice. So I think you're having a stroke right now, babe. That's what I would pull out at this point. But this dude, not the best guy. Not the nicest guy on the planet. The man says, cut it out, and the girl says she was just trying to have a fine time, and the man agrees that they should try to have a fine time, which is just so funny. Like, the girl is like, I was just, having a fine time. And the dude's like, yeah, we should try to have a fine time. A little bit of dickheadedness there. It's like, yeah, she's being annoying, but you do have to acknowledge she's just trying to bring a little bit of lightness to the situation. Just let's talk about something else. That classic, white people move of just being like, look, did your uncle molest you? Yes, but I would rather talk about the Buffalo Bills right now. That's basically what this chick's trying to do. And I can't blame her, dude. I'm a white person from the Midwest. I do have that repressed, like, let's not talk about this. Let's talk about literally anything else. So I understand where she's coming from, but I also get where the man's coming from and being like, cut it the fuck out with the elephants and the licorice and all that bullshit. I understand both sides in this situation. But the dude is being a little bit of a dickhead. It's like, dude, you're on vacation with Bae. She's fucking excited as shit. Let her talk about the goddamn licorice. All right, just let her do it. Yeah, is it fucking annoying hearing about red vines or Twizzlers all the time? Yeah, it's a little bit annoying hearing about fucking Twizzlers all the time, whether they're cherry or strawberry flavored. But let her talk about the goddamn licorice. All right, dude, and just let her get drunk. Maybe she'll pass out, and then you can, like, I don't know, go get a hooker or something. So they continue. They said conversation, but this feels like a slight argument to me. So they continue the argument slash conversation while drinking. Then the girl says all they do is look at things and try new drinks before saying the hills don't really look like white elephants. Oh, this is where I'd lose my mind. I'd be like, okay, all we do is look at things and try new drinks. Yeah, that's 90% of life. That's what a vacation is looking at things and drinking. That's that's if you ask the average American what they did on their vacation to Mexico or London or wherever the fuck they're going. If you ask them what they did on that vacation, it's gonna be like, oh, I went to this museum and then I went and looked at this statue, or I went to the beach and I looked at the water and then I had a few margaritas. All right, that's like that would be my snapping point. I'd be like, bitch, this is what a vacation is. But this dude, he he did some things to his lady. He's been kind of not great to his lady. So, when you're kind of being a dickhead like that, you kind of have to pull back on the dickheadness, even when it is somewhat warranted. It would be somewhat warranted to be like, yeah, that's what a vacation is. A vacation is getting drunk and looking at shit. We've done this before. Okay? So, there's not a fair criticism of this vacation, is that it's getting drunk and looking at shit. That's all of them, babe. Okay? And the whole, the hills don't really look like white elephants. I can imagine what she was doing. She was like taking a drink, and like as she put the glass up to her lips, she was like, I don't even really think the hills look like white elephants. It's like, what are you trying to get at here? What are we doing here? So they're gonna, bickering and arguing, and this is when at first I was like, yeah, these are just two people fighting. I am on the dude side here just because I'm a dude and I'm going to be a little bit more in that dude state of mind about this whole situation. But this is when I fully switched over to, I was on the chick side after this, like fully. Before I was like kind of riding the line, being a fence rider, all that good stuff. After this, I was like, okay, dude, you're seriously going to be a dickhead in this moment. So the man brings up an operation that is simple and natural and really not even an operation at all. And that's what he says. He goes, there's this operation and I think you should get it. It's natural, it's really simple, and it's barely even an operation at all. And when I was like reading the overview of this story, I was like, what is he talking about? Because at first when I read operation, I was like, is this going to be some old west shit? Are they about to pull an operation and rob this train? No, he's talking about a surgical operation. And obviously, this dude's a bit of a dickhead, so he's not talking about leukemia or whatever. He's talking about murdering the baby. An abortion. Sorry. Sorry. Hey, look, I'll be transparent. I'm not gonna be one of those people like, yeah, I don't really have an opinion on abortion. It's like, yes, the fuck you do. What do we do? Pretending you don't have an opinion on abortion is fucking insane. Saying you don't really care that much about like what the government does about it, okay, that's a little bit more reasonable. But being like, yeah, I just don't have an opinion on abortion. It's like you don't have an opinion on one of like the most divisive topics. No, you do have an opinion, you just don't want to say it out loud. So, it's like when people are like, yeah, I don't really care about Israel and Palestine. It's like, you got to come down on one side of the issue. So, um, that's what the operation is that he's talking about. He's not talking about getting a wart removed or something like that. He's talking about killing that goddamn baby so he doesn't have to raise it, because I felt a bit of dickheadedness coming from this guy, but you can sometimes being a dickhead is like pretty understandable, right? Especially when you're on vacation with Bay. But you can't be a dickhead in this situation for a number of reasons. It doesn't benefit you. It doesn't benefit the chick. It doesn't benefit anybody to be a dickhead in this sort of situation when you want her to kill her baby, right? Like if I for whatever reason was like, this chick needs to kill her baby, I would try my best not to be a dickhead about it, or just not even not be a dickhead about the actual killing of the baby, but just try not to be a dickhead in general, because you're asking a pretty serious thing. Some might say the most serious thing. To kill an innocent unborn child, for this lady to kill her own innocent unborn child, you gotta, that's a tough thing to convince someone of. So you being a dickhead around the whole, just in general, I don't think you're gonna convince her to kill her own baby at this point. So, and he's like, yeah, it's not really an operation at all. Don't worry about it. And the girl asks what will happen after the operation. And the man says things will go back to normal. And the girl says, she's basically like, okay, well, if that's the case, then great. Like, sarcastically, obviously. She's like, oh, yeah, if I kill my baby, then you're just gonna, like, love me and love me forever. That's basically what the dude is saying. He's like, babe, if you just rip that baby apart limb by limb, or get it sucked out by a shop vac, or, have it poisoned to death and then have a miscarriage, I'll totally fucking love you again. I'll give you the best dick every night and totally get drunk all the time and just like love each other and like paint and do art and stuff together if you just kill that baby. And then she's like, oh yeah. She knows. She's like, this dude does not give a shit about anything else than drinking and going through Spain. That's all he gives a shit about. Just chilling in this bright ass valley, but chilling in the bar and just getting drunk as shit. So she doesn't buy it for a fucking second, and good for her. Good for fucking her. It just, being a dickhead about an abortion is crazy. Being like, look, you're being annoying right now, and also you need to kill your baby is insane. It's not. If you want to convince someone to kill their own baby, you got to come into it like being like, babe, you would be so ugly if you gave birth. No, you don't say that, but you say something else that's more convincing than you're annoying as shit. And it's like, well, if you think I'm annoying as shit, then we're gonna hate each other and eventually break up anyway. So then it's like, why would I kill my baby for you? So it's clearly not working on her. She's like, oh yeah, everything's gonna go back to normal, and we're just gonna like have a grand old time together. And she clearly isn't enjoying herself in this situation really in the first place. So for him to be like, yeah, we're just gonna keep doing this forever, that also really isn't an incentive for her to like do what the guy's asking her to do, which is killing her baby. So she's a little bit pissed off, and she keeps asking if he will love her if she doesn't get the operation, and he says yes, but urges her to get it. So yeah, that's, once again, this is the 1920s. So you gotta, if you're a chick, you are kind of required to have bae in this scenario. You gotta have a husband in the 1920s. So she's like, hey, are you gonna love me even if I give birth to this baby? Because she's probably thinking in her head, I'm gonna be homeless with a baby on the streets. That baby's probably gonna die of typhoid, and then I'm gonna become a hooker. That's probably what's going through her mind at this point. And she's like, do you love me? Do you love me? And he's like, yes, and I'll love you even if you don't get the operation. But he's still like, but you should get the operation though. You should get it. And that's when someone you're like entirely dependent on is like telling you or like suggesting that you do something, you're gonna do it, right? It's like when you live with your parents and your dad's like, hey, do you want to like go clean up the backyard? And you're like, no, but I will because you give me food and water and a house and all that stuff. So that's basically what this dude's doing to this chick at this point. He basically is her dom daddy, and he's being like, no, I'll still love you. But it's like, first of all, you got to be cautious in this situation if you're the chick. Because, like, if this dude stops fucking giving me money and all that stuff, I either go have to work in, like, a sweatshop somewhere, or I have to become a hooker. Or find another rich dude. But still, that's a tall task, and I don't know how old this lady is. Although she is referred to as the girl, so she's probably got a few good years left where she can trick some older rich guy whose first wife died after giving birth to 8 children into marrying her. So, but that's what I imagine is going on in her mind right now. And I think that's the kind of the situation she's just in as a whole. It's like he's saying he doesn't care, but also he keeps asking me to get it. So I think he does care about it. And if he does care about it that much, then if I don't get it, he's probably going to break up with me. And we're not even married at this point. So I'm not going to get shit out of the divorce, and I'm going to be fucked. That's probably what's going through her brain. So the girl agrees to get it and says she doesn't really care about herself. And this is kind of where I came back to the dude side a little bit, where I was like, God damn, you're really hitting me with like the, whole suicide thing. It's, I've had, I've, ex- I've not, whatever. That's the thing that chicks do, right? Where they're like, if you stop talking to me, and if you stop, I'm just so alone right now. And just like, you're giving me, like, you're really helping me. And like, if you stop, I'm going to kill myself. That's some shit that chicks do. And it's so goddamn annoying. That's the thing I've known chicks to do. So, and the man says if he doesn't want her to get it, he doesn't want her to get it if she feels that way. That's not the best response in that situation either. Her being like, yeah, I don't really care about myself. I'd be like, well, she's clearly gonna kill herself and the baby. So that's what would be going through my mind at that point. But this dude is a pretty big piece of shit, so he probably doesn't care that much that she's gonna kill herself and the baby. But like me in this, I wouldn't even be in this situation in the first place. First of all, because I'm a lonely virgin loser who can't really talk to chicks, so I wouldn't, I wouldn't be on vacation with a beautiful woman, uh, somewhere in Spain in a valley somewhere. But also, I'd also be like, I guess I'm having a kid now, or whatever. Even if I was like pro-abortion, I wouldn't. If up to this point everything went the way it went, my response wouldn't be, don't get it if you feel that way. It's like, it's not her feeling a way about the abortion. It's that you don't really care about her. And she's like, fuck you. I don't care about myself either. Like, that's kind of what I feel like is going on here a little bit. Although, I do question if I have autism sometimes. So maybe I'm misreading the situation. And I also didn't read the story. So that could also be a key element of this that I'm kind of missing. So we go on. And the girl says, she gets up, she goes to the end of the station, and she admires the landscape and says they could have all of this. Remember that. Remember that later. Chick goes up, gets like out of the shade of the bar, goes to the end of this, train station that they're at, and looks at this, bright, sunny, kind of oppressive landscape. She's like, we could have all this. It could all be ours. She's rocking with that. And at this point, she also does something else. So she says, we could have all of this and we could have everything, and every day we make it impossible. And at this point, I'd be like, I think this chick's going to kill herself. That's the vibes I'm getting off here a little bit. I don't know. Like I said, I don't have the most experience, but the limited amount of experience I do have falls somewhere within this range, is all I'm going to say. Is all I'm going to say. So that to me screams, I'm really depressed right now, and or not even depressed. I just don't see another way out of this situation if you don't do what I want you to do. And that to me says, I'm going to fucking put a noose around my neck and jump off of a fucking, stool or something like that. Like that's the feeling I'm getting from this. But obviously that's not the point of the story. That she's just saying we could have all of this and every day we make it impossible. And by we, she means him. He's making this impossible, right? Remember this later on for the analysis of the story. So the man argues they can still have everything, and the girl responds saying, it isn't ours anymore. It is not ours anymore. Basically saying, situation's made up, it's mine. The train's coming, our bags are packed, we can't, have all of this beautiful landscape in Spain anymore. The train's coming, I can hear that whistle blowing far away, I can see you have the bags packed. You're still at the bar. You're refusing to get up and like come join me out in the sun. So we can't have any of this, or we can't have all of this anymore. It's over, basically. That's what she's hitting us with. It's over. He's trying to say we're so back. She's saying it's over. We can't have any of this anymore because you're just sitting at the fucking bar drinking cervezas. That's what she's saying him at this point. Also, remember that later on for the analysis. So he begs her to sit down and not feel that way anymore. And she says she doesn't feel one way or another, just knows. Right? She just knows she can't have this anymore. Whatever she's talking about the landscape. Maybe she's not talking about the landscape. I don't know. But she's talking about the landscape in like this beautiful place in Spain, or this place that she thinks is beautiful. He clearly doesn't. You know, remember early in the story when they're drinking at the bar, she's looking at the landscape and he's looking down, you know, at his beer, drinking his cerveza. So she's like, we can't have this shit. And it's not like a feeling that I have. I just know we can't have this shit anymore. Are they still talking about the landscape in the vacation and the train and all that stuff? I'm not too sure at this point. Like I said, kind of autistic, but I can read enough into this situation to kind of know this bitch ain't talking about a fucking beautiful landscape in Spain anymore. And this is, I don't use like figurative speech like that. You know, I don't hide my intentions when I say what I say. Uh, so the man continues talking about the operation, and the girl tells him to stop. He responds by backpedaling, and she, or wait, no. So tells her about the operation again. The girl tells him to stop, and he goes. He's basically like, hey, I'm willing to go through with it if you want to go through with it, which means I don't want to go through with it, but there's also nothing I can do about it. Which again, he's wrong. It's the 1920s. He could just stab her in the neck, move like one town over, and no one would ever know about it. I don't think he's like that level of like a piece of shit, just being a pure psychopath, but he is suggesting the murder of a baby. That's it's what he's suggesting. So I wouldn't put it that far beyond this guy. But you gotta remember, she's telling him to stop. She's like, just fucking shut up. Now she's in the dude's, you know, shoes. You know, now this dude's not shutting up about how everything tastes like licorice, and she's like, cut it out, shut the fuck up. So this makes her angrier, and she questions whether their future together means anything to him, and he says it does, adding that he only wants her before returning the conversation to the operation. God damn. This dude in the operation. This guy must love board games because he's obsessed with operations. Alright? I'm talking about that little dude when you pull the plastic bone out of him and you don't try to touch the side and buzz it. This dude loves operations. Okay? He's pulling the safety pin out of, what's that guy's name? Six Sam or something like that? Whatever the dude's name is. He just is obsessed with this operation. He's obsessed with it. He can't get over this operation. Once again, operation. I was going to try to keep it secret and be like, boom, they were talking about an abortion, but I just couldn't. You know, I don't have the mental capacity. I don't have like the mental capacity to really lie well. So he's just bringing it back to the operation, even after he told her to shut the fuck up. And he also says, I only want you, which that kind of means I don't want the baby. That's kind of what that means. And again, I'm firmly on this chick's side. I just want to make that clear. There was no but there, but I guess there is a but there. But now the shoe is on the other foot in this situation, where he just keeps bringing up the operation, like she was bringing up the licorice and the fucking white elephants and all that bullshit. So the girl asks the man to do a favor for her, and he's like, fuck yeah, please let me do a favor for you, babe. I'll do whatever favor you ask me. And she hits him with the shut the fuck up. You know, it's like, hey, can you do me a favor? Keep your fucking mouth shut. That's what she does to him. And he does for a while before saying, do you guys want to guess what he brings up? Do you guys want to take a complete shot in the dark and try to guess what this dude brings up after his chick tells him to shut the fuck up? Do you guys want to take a guess? It could be anything, dude. Is he going to start talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers? Is he going to be like, dude, Steelers going to the Super Bowl this season? Fucking, you know, going to destroy it. Do you think he's bringing that up? Do you think he's talking about the current state of politics in 1927? What do you think he's going to bring up? No. Doesn't bring up any of that stuff. He says he doesn't really care about the operation. Once again, hitting him with the chick shit. You know, when she said hills look like white elephants, and then she was like, I don't really think the hills look like white elephants. That's basically what he's doing to her, but inarguably 10 times worse. It's 10, 1,000, a million times worse is what he's doing back to her. So to her credit, I mean, I'm at a bar, I'm drinking beer. I would have broken a glass over this dude's head by this point. But to her credit, she's keeping it calm, keeping it relaxed, you know, fairly relaxed, fairly relaxed. So he brings up the operation after she hits him with the do me a favor and shut the fuck up. So the girl threatens to scream, and that's a classic move that chicks will do. Like, if you fucking, I'm gonna scream. So he's fearing a little bit, being like, it is 1927, so no one's gonna really give a shit if I just like grab her and beat the shit out of her for screaming. But also, I don't want her to scream because I don't want to have to grab her and beat the shit out of her. And then the waitress appears, saying the train will be here soon, and the man translates for the girl, who smiles at the waitress. She's like, thank you. Yeah. I'm on the chick's side fully at this point. You know, but I think this is the point where she's got to start scheming. That's where I would take the story fucking personally. All right, Ernest Hemingway, let me tell you something. I would turn this shit into some sort of murder mystery plot where she kills him, takes all his jewels and gold and all that stuff, and then goes and raises the baby. That's what I would turn the story into, but that's not what fucking Ernest is doing, I guess. And with a gay name like Ernest, there's no way he could come up with a sick ass story like that about a murder on a train. She takes all the jewels or whatever else this guy. I don't know if he has any jewels. I'm guessing he does. I'm guessing that's why they're in Spain in the first place. They're in Spain because he is a secret jewel thief. And that's why the girl's kind of been upset on vacation. He's like, you keep disappearing. And he's like, yeah, I've been going to bars and stuff like that. She thinks he's cheating on him. In reality, stealing jewels at night. But she knows about the theft of the jewels. She's like, I gotta kill this guy, take all his jewels so I don't have to kill my baby. That's what I would have done. But Ernest Hemingway's a gay loser. He doesn't understand how fucking sick a 1927 jewel thievery murder mystery plot could be. Alright. And then also remember, the girl threatened to scream and then she looked at the waitress. Remember that for the analysis. Alright, and then the man gets up and carries their heavy luggage to where the train will be. He looks at the people around him and notes they're all waiting perfectly reasonably for the train. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really remember what the symbolism for the people waiting patiently for the train was, but I'm sure it's important. Come up with your own thing, alright? I can't fucking do everything for you. So he then returns to the girl, who smiles at him. She's now sitting in the shade again. The girl smiles at him and asks if she feels better, to which she responds that she's fine and nothing is wrong. And that's the end of that. It's the end of that Hills Look Like White Elephant story. Like I said, there is a little bit of that gay artsy shit in there where it's like nothing really needs to happen for a story to be important. You know, I watched this movie recently. It's called Adaptation. It has Nick Cage, Meryl Streep maybe. It's a really good movie. It's an amazing movie, but it does have a little bit of like that, just like that, you know, I don't need Transformers every time I watch a movie or read a story, but I do find that stuff to be a little bit gay sometimes, where it's just like, oh yeah, and then nothing happened, and that's the lesson of the story. And it's like, okay, how many fucking pieces of literature do I need to tell me that message? Although I think a lot of those stories are just kind of about telling stories and maybe having a little bit of symbolism in there, or about, you know, bringing up some sort of deeper message. But this story seems to be mostly about the symbolism of the situation that these two are in, and about how the landscape reflects their situation a whole lot. Which I think that's also a really good way to tell a story, but I'm a dum-dum, so I don't understand symbolism that much, or I can't pick up on it on my own. I'm sure if I tried once, I could somehow, you know, pick up on it a little bit, but I just don't want to try. I don't want to have to like fucking boot up the new Planet of the Apes movie and be like, that orangutan, he has a mole on his left cheek. and that represents this. But I think in a situation like that, or like this specific story, it's fine. It's fine. It's a 17-page story. Takes it, 20 minutes to read max. You know, it's not like the biggest waste of time, but if it's like a 3-hour movie and the entire movie's about symbolism or whatever, it's like, okay, fuck off, suck my dick. But the symbolism, and we're not going to do too much of an analysis. I'm really just going to talk about the symbolism and then I'll do my own analysis. So the operation is an abortion. I already said that one. The light is the feelings slash situation that they are in. Remember, we got like this big oppressive light over us the whole time, and it's making the landscape look bare. The chick finds the landscape to be, interesting and beautiful, but the dude, he doesn't care about it at all. So, and that reflects, with kind of the whole abortion thing. So, the shade is the niceties slash normalcy that they hide behind. And remember when she goes out to the end of the train or the end of the station and they get into like that little kind of spat thing and it's just kind of like loud and they're kind of like, he's yelling from the bar, she's yelling from the light. That's kind of like a symbolism of her being in this side of things and him being on that side of things. He's in the shade. He doesn't want to go out in the sun and, appreciate what's around him and, stop traveling and moving and all that stuff. And she does want to do all that stuff. So that's what the shade and the sun represent. The railroad is the proverbial crossroads that the couple is at. The luggage is the emotional weight slash fear of the man, but it's like, I'm getting kind of sick and tired of being like, I got a chick pregnant. What am I going to do? It's like, you should have thought about that before you nutted in a chick with no condom. Sorry. Sorry, you should have thought about that before you nutted in a chick with no condom. Like, I don't know what to tell you. That at some point should have crossed your mind that sex is used to create a baby. And you were doing sex. So maybe a baby would be made. That should have crossed your mind far earlier than this. So, obviously I'm on the chick side in this situation. The girl loves the landscape and wants to live in it, but the man just wants to keep drinking and traveling. So that's basically kind of the whole story summed up. I'm sure everything else has, some sort of symbolism in it. But that's basically that's the basics of what's going on here. The dude wants to hide in the shade and not, deal with the sun, even if dealing with the sun is what his girlfriend wants and, what might be best in the situation. He just wants to hide away from it and drink it all away. God damn, that is loud as shit. The grinding noise is back. But yeah, that's this whole story. It's a pretty good story. Pretty interesting, pretty fun read. Not a tough read at all. And the symbolism is pretty good. I think the symbolism is good, but I do think Ernest Hemingway is kind of being like a douche about the whole thing when it's like, dude, clearly the guy's in the wrong. You want me to feel bad for him? Yeah, I can kind of feel a little bit of sympathy for him, being like, yeah, it's a tough place to be in. But also, if you do not want to have a kid, do not nut in a chick with no condom on. That's the lesson that I learned from this story. So don't be a fucking pussy about some shit that you did. All right? That's what I learned from this story. All right. And if you're going to be a pussy, keep it quiet. All right? And just fucking let your chick talk about the licorice and the elephants or whatever the fuck she's talking about. That's the lesson you take away from this story. If you take any other lesson away, you're a pussy. All right. Okay. That's all I've got for this episode, guys. The hills look like white elephants. Hills like white elephants. And I guess I said I was going to talk about the title a little bit. I think he chose that title because it's the chick admiring and appreciating the beauty of the landscape and the dude being like, yeah, whatever. And that is representative of her wanting to, have the baby and him wanting to kill it. So that's the story. All right. I hope you guys have a good day, a good week, a good year, a good life. My throat is still fucked up, and it's not from Darnell. He hasn't been fucking my throat lately, but that's all I've got for this episode, guys. Good day, good week, good year, good life. And I'll see you guys soon. Peace.